Previously on The Sports Zoo.
Are you kidding? This isn't even about sports. Why are you talking about a movie from 2003? What? You think you can do better? You just watch TV and then talk about it. I just watch TV. I put my body on the line for entertainment. And what were you thinking? You just read off a PowerPoint. The owner gives them both fortune cookies, saying that a journey soon begins, its prize reflected in another's eyes.
When you see is what you lack, then selfish love will change you back. Whatever.
What did you do?
That's not mine. That's not mine.
Oh no, it happened, didn't it?
Wait a minute, that's not right. The King and Queen of the Ring tournaments march on. Are you sure this is right? It doesn't feel right to me. Wait a minute, that's not right. The King and Queen of the Ring tournaments march on. The Alpha Academy can't get on the same page, and we ask a possible #1 tag team contender, what were they thinking? Okay, in the news. And the news indeed, as we start on SmackDown with the King of the Ring tournament's first round. We saw 3 men's matches for King of the Ring and 3 women's matches for Queen of the Ring. So let's start with our match of the night for King of the Ring between 2 former champions, AJ Styles and Randy Orton. It was a great, hard-hitting affair where both proved why they had been champions and both deserved to be Kings of the Ring. However, there could only be one winner, and after Styles hit a phenomenal forearm, he was a little too slow to hit the Styles Clash, and Orton popped up and landed an RKO out of nowhere to get the win. For Randy Orton, he goes to 5-0-1 in 2024 in one-on-one matches, while Styles is looking like he's starting to sputter again, as he's just 1-5-1 in one-on-one matches. The next King of the Ring match featured 2 up-and-comers from NXT, Baron Corbin in his first return match versus the first-round pick, Carmelo Hayes. Corbin surprisingly looked very good in this match and nearly won it with an end of days. However, Hayes slipped out of it and got an inside cradle pin for the win. For Hayes, he goes to just 1-2-1 on the main roster. For Corbin, this is his 15th straight loss on the main roster. His last singles win was on November 14th, 2022 against Tozawa. The third King of the Ring match was much the same. Bobby Lashley was declared out for being injured, so Angelo Dawkins, another member of the Pride, stepped in to take his place. Solo Sikoa and Tonga Loa provided a distraction that caused Dawkins to lose focus. Tama Tonga took advantage and hit a flatliner to get the win. For Tama Tonga, this was his first match one-on-one on the main roster, so he is 1-0. For Dawkins, this was his first singles match of the year, and his last win was even further back than Corbin's, as it was July 15th, 2022 against Omos. Do we really need to do records for every single match? Fine. Okay. Then in Queen of the Ring, we saw 3 matches as well. The first being Naomi versus Nia Jax. This was another great match that also featured 2 former champions. Naomi stuck with Nia the whole way, neutralizing her power advantage, but in the end it wasn't quite enough, as Nia landed a leg drop, then an annihilator to get the win. After having 2 straight losses, Nia is back in the win column and is 4-3 in one-on-one matches. Naomi, however, is just 2-3-2 in one-on-one matches since returning. Our second Queen of the Ring match was Jade Cargill versus Piper Niven. Jade showed some vulnerability for the first time in her WWE career as Piper went toe-to-toe with her. However, it wasn't enough. Jade hit a big pump kick followed by Jaded to get the pin. That was just Jade's second one-on-one match, but she is now 2-0. For Piper, she has mostly seen tag action as this was her first one-on-one match, but she is 0-3 in all singles matches. Jade's tag team partner, Bianca Belair, battled Candice LeRae in the final Queen of the Ring match. Indy Hartwell injured Bianca's left knee while Bianca was trying to get back into the ring, and Candice did her best to take full advantage of this injury. But it wasn't quite enough. As Candice was making a move in the ropes, Bianca was able to grab her and hit a KOD to get the win. Bianca continues her impressive run and is 4-0 in one-on-one action. For Candice, this was just her first loss in one-on-one matches as she's now 2-1. Beyond the mat for SmackDown, Nick Aldis started the show by saying that Cody Rhodes' competitor for King and Queen of the Ring had already been determined, and it ended up being a champion versus champion match versus Logan Paul. They will have a contract signing next week. The only other bit of news was that Solo Sikoa told Paul Heyman that he had been in contact with Roman Reigns, and Reigns told him that until he returns, Sikoa was to make the decisions. Then on Raw, we moved to the King of the Ring quarterfinals, with main event being main event Jey Uso versus Ilya Dragunov. Dragunov certainly looks like he belongs on the main roster and took Jey to the limit. However, even though he landed an H-bomb, it wasn't quite enough as Jey was able to hit a spear and then get an Uso splash for the win. Jey is right back on track and he has now won 6 out of his last 7 since March 25th. Dragunov, it's his first loss on the main roster, and he is 2-1. In the other quarters, we saw Kofi Kingston, who was an injury replacement for Xavier Woods, and he battled Rey Mysterio in a non-televised match in the first round to advance. And Kofi got what he wanted to face Gunther in the quarterfinals. Kofi was so enraged by Gunther's actions against Woods before the tournament started that he attacked Gunther before the bell and severely injured his right knee. However, Gunther battled through it and was able to put Kofi in a Boston Crab multiple times, as well as a half crab a little bit earlier, and eventually made Kofi submit. Gunther now moves to 3-0 post-Mania and 6-1 in total for the year, while Kofi drops to 0-2-1 in one-on-one action. For the Queen of the Ring, we also saw 2 quarterfinal matches there as well. The first being Io Sky taking Shayna Baszler. Like Kofi, Shayna had her first round match not air on TV, where she took on Maxine Dupree. Maxine was also an injury replacement, replacing the former Queen of the Ring winner, Zelina Vega. Here we had some great mat wrestling, but Io took to the sky and hit the over the moonsault to get the win. For Io, she is 2-0 post-Mania and 4-1 overall in one-on-one action in 2024. For Shayna, her non-tag team match struggles continue as she is 0-5 in all singles matches. In the other Queen of the Ring quarterfinals, we saw Zoe Stark take on Lyra Valkyria. Lyra kept up the momentum by countering a Z360 into a Nightwing to get the win and improved to 2-0 on the main roster. For Zoe, she falls to 1-5 in singles matches. Proving that there is still a tag division on Raw, we saw a fatal 4-way match for the #1 contendership to the World Tag Team titles. Near the end of the match, the New Catch Republic hit a Birmingham Hammer on Finn Balor, but before the ref could count to 3, JD McDonough pulled Balor under the bottom rope. Dunn followed JD and they fought on the announce table, where Carlito came out of the crowd and landed a backstabber on Dunn. He then threw Dunn into the ring, where Balor hit a coup de grace to get the win for the Judgment Day to become the new #1 contenders. Surprisingly, for JD and Balor, this was their first match as a tag team duo. For the New Catch Republic, they fall to 1-3 in non-traditional tag team matches. For AOP, they are now 0-2 in non-traditional tag team matches, and the Creeds are also 0-3 in these types of tag team matches. We also had 2 matches set up by Chad Gable for the Alpha Academy. The first featuring Tozawa taking on Big Bronson Reed. Tozawa actually got some momentum and decided to rip his shirt like Hulk Hogan, which was not a very smart move because Reed quickly recovered to hit a Death Valley driver and a tsunami to pick up the win. This was a win that Reed desperately needed after losing 3 straight, and he is 2-5 in one-on-one matches. For Tozawa, he falls to 500 at 1-1. The other match saw Otis taking on Sami Zayn in a non-title match. Otis, despite Gable's insistence, hit a caterpillar on Zayn. However, Zayn was able to immediately avoid a splash and hit a haluva kick to get the quick victory. For Zayn, he is now 6-1 in his last 7 one-on-one matches. But Otis remains winless on the year and is 0-3 in singles matches. Beyond the mat for Raw, Drew McIntyre yet again talked about CM Punk and called all of Punk's fans stupid. He also said that Damian Priest is merely a paper champ. This of course caused Priest to come out, and after some back and forth, Priest granted McIntyre a title match. Later backstage, Priest then said he does not trust Carlito, but said that what Carlito did during the tag match was cool. Still for the Judgment Day, JD for some reason went to see Braun Strowman and put him on notice. I cannot imagine that is going to go well for JD. Lastly, match with him. So with that, let's go to everyone's favorite segment, What Were You Thinking? Wait a minute, you want me to do all that? No. That's crazy. On this week's What Were You Thinking, we asked the authors of Pain what were they thinking when they decided not to tag in the Fatal 4-Way match. Let's set the scene. First, we have Finn Balor and Brutus Creed legal in the middle of the ring. Balor is down on all fours, trying to get to the corner where he once reaches out for a tag before he apparently decides to change his mind and turn his body to face his opponents. However, at this time, we first have Razor in the corner. He puts out his hand once to try to get the tag before Balor does so. But both he and Akam are just standing here in the corner. When Balor gets close enough for a tag, at this point Balor doesn't ask for the tag, but they could have held on to the rope and just gone over the top and made the tag, becoming legal and entering the match. However, for some reason, they decided not to do that, and it may have very well cost them a title match. Instead, Akam sees Julius Creed coming towards him, and he starts to go in between the ropes when Julius comes up and drop kicks him right outside onto the floor. Then Julius goes back off the ropes, and Razor, not doing anything, just kind of stands there and lets Julius hit him with a big elbow. Now both Akam and Razor were down on the floor for a very long time when the New Catch Republic attacked Finn Balor on the back turnbuckle before Akam and Razor both tried to yank both of their legs off of the turnbuckle. However, they were both unsuccessful, and both Bate and Dunn while on the turnbuckle, did a moonsault onto both of them and knocking them out momentarily. When they finally came back into the ring, they were able to grab the Judgment Day and get them up and land a super collider in the middle of the ring. However, because they still weren't legal, they could not go for the pin to win the match. Instead, Akam went for a copter spin by Bate, and then Brutus hit an Olympic slam on Razor, and that was it for the AOP. In the end, that was it. Balor hit the coup de grace and got the win. So, AOP, because you never tagged into the match, what were you thinking? Okay, simple question this week. Was it okay to not show all of the first round matches for King and Queen of the Ring on TV? Of course it was okay to not show every single match of King of the Ring. Can you imagine if that was all we did? If there were better segments to be had for a better TV product, then that's what we should do. Wait, what? That was the wrong answer. Fine, I'll go off of what you said. No, we should focus on the matches, of course. We needed to take out the other segments to show the matches. On the May 6th Raw for the first round of the King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring tournaments, we did not show Kofi Kingston take on Rey Mysterio, and we did not see Zelina Vega, who was then replaced by Maxine Dupree, take on Shayna Baszler. We only found out when this week's show took place that Kofi and Shayna had won those matches. But on that May 6th Raw, we saw the Judgment Day have a nice cry it out celebration where they all apologized and thanked each other for all of their work as a team before we finally got to Jey Uso replacing Drew McIntyre to take on Finn Balor in the first round. We also had two other in-ring segments with no matches that were by CM Punk and by Becky Lynch, as well as 8 other backstage segments and 2 pre-taped vignettes. On SmackDown, it didn't get any better, as the LA Knight versus Santos Escobar match and the Tiffany Stratton versus Michin match were also not shown. Now on Raw, they did show us the updated brackets, so we know that LA Knight and Tiffany Stratton won those matches. But even though there were no other matches on SmackDown, we certainly didn't need an entire beginning segment between Cody Rhodes and Logan Paul just to announce that they would have a match in a couple of weeks. We also had 5 additional backstage segments and 3 vignettes that easily could have been replaced with the 2 matches that weren't shown. So as I said, we certainly had plenty of time to have all of the King and Queen of the matches shown on TV. Now for our STFs of the week. It was a relatively mild week on SmackDown with just a few fines. First, Chelsea Green picks up a fine for slapping Jade Cargill in the middle of her and Piper Niven's match. Secondly, Indy Hartwell is going to get a fine for her chop block that hurt Bianca Belair's left knee during her and Candice LeRae's match. And lastly, a few fines in the King of the Ring match between Angelo Dawkins and Tama Tonga. First, Montez Ford picks up a fine for flipping onto Sikoa and Loa, but those two do not get a fine for their retaliation against Ford. However, the post-match attack on Dawkins by Sikoa, Loa, and Tama Tonga will all get them fines. Then on Raw, we had a little bit more activity. First, we get a fine for Shayna Baszler for attacking Io Sky before their quarterfinal Queen of the Ring match. Similarly, Kofi Kingston will also pick up a fine for his pre-match attack on Gunther. Sami Zayn, even though he was just coming to the rescue of Otis, who was being berated by Chad Gable, will pick up a fine for delivering an exploder suplex on Gable. Now Becky Lynch, for an unprovoked punch on Liv Morgan, she will have to pick up a 1-week suspension. Lastly, Kairi Sane and Io Sky will both get a 1-week suspension for causing a disqualification in Dakota Kai's match with Becky Lynch. Dakota will then pick up a fine for helping Io and Kairi in a post-match attack. And lastly, Liv Morgan will also pick up a fine for throwing Becky into the ring post after the match. The King and Queen of the Ring tournaments may be cursed, but they have provided plenty of good matches. But also a few not so good ones, as well as a few that we didn't get to see at all. This has been Dr. O'Kay. I'm reporting on the WWE, where everything is okay.